City of Stevens Point Finance Committee meeting, recorded November 8, 2021.
Committee ready?
I think Alder Morrow is just coming to the table, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep, and then we should be all set to go. Okay, we have everyone here for the Finance Committee, so I assume you want me to start with calling the roll?
Yes, please. We'll call the meeting to order of the Finance Committee. It is 7:31. Yes, please do call the roll.
Okay, Dalton.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
And Slowinski.
Here.
5 present.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is updates on repairs and facility needs at the fire station. Corey.
Yes, so did include a memo in your packet. I know last month we talked a little bit about some of the flooding issues that the fire department was having, and the committee did approve some additional funds to work through some of those building repair issues. Looks like that project should come in a little bit better than expected based on the solution that was chosen. However, we've also had some issues come up related to the HVAC system, specifically with the heating and air conditioning. And one of the big issues that we have is that the air conditioning system is quite old, and it needs to be recharged with new refrigerant, and it's an obsolete type of refrigerant, so it would cost about $9,000 to do that. And we found that for $24,000, we could just get a new compressor and use a new refrigerant. So obviously we're looking at that, very closely, that, okay, does it really make sense to spend $9,000 on obsolete refrigerant for a system that's quite old? And then that also has brought in some more questions about the overall HVAC system, what really, what approach makes sense just for the long term. So we're also looking at the boilers and the air handler, and it might turn into a more comprehensive project, but we're still ironing out some of those details. And right now this is a non-action item, so we're not looking for action right now, but just wanted to provide an update on that. Chief Finn, I don't know if you had anything to add.
Thanks, Corey. No, Comptroller Laddick and I have been working together on this. This came up, sadly to say, after capital budget was approved. The air conditioning, I have repair bills, hold on, going back to 1996. And like Comptroller Laddick said, the Freon that they put in there is $9,000, and it's hard to get, and it's not recommended, it's not eco-friendly. And also on the boilers, right now we have aluminum heat exchangers that are burning out on a regular basis, and they can't get, they're hard to get parts too, so they're recommending going to stainless steel. And our air compressor's been there since 1980, I believe, and so our air condenser. So we're just getting all the figures together and working with Corey. We went on the radar for the city council.
All right. Thank you, Chief Finn. Appreciate that. Again, as the Comptroller Treasurer said, this is not an action item, it's an update. I'm assuming if there is a need for additional allocations, this would come back as an action item to approve those.
Yes, that's correct.
Does the committee have any questions for either the chief or for the Comptroller Treasurer? All right. I'm all for getting rid of that old CFC Freon and going with something that is a little less destructive to the ozone. So it's a great consideration. All right, moving on. Discussion and possible action on item 3, Discussion and possible action on the budget for the city of Stevens Point for 2022. And once again, I send that over to our comptroller treasurer for all the various updates.
Yes, so I have several updates here. Usually we wouldn't have this many changes between when the budget is originally proposed and coming to the Finance Committee, but it was a little bit of an unusual year in that regard. So first of all, the good news is that the school district is going to be dropping its tax levy. So what that allows us to do is it does allow us to follow through on the plan that the Finance Committee had adopted to both backfill what was lost in capital funding through the operational budget. So we're able to backfill that, and then also able to incorporate into our long-term financial planning the ability to avoid any tax levy increase for the year where the assessment revaluation happens. So that can sort of take the edge off of that adjustment as well. With doing all of that, the change in the total tax rate should be well short of the 2.5% that we had talked about before. So right now it's looking like it should be a very reasonable change as far as the total tax rate and the total tax bills. I am still waiting on a few things. We do still need to get the school levy tax credit numbers, which does affect the total tax rate as well as the lottery credit, which will affect the total bill that homeowners have to pay. So it still is somewhat tentative, but right now that is looking real positive. So I don't know if there's any questions about that as far as the tax rate and capital. No? Okay, sounds good. The next part, unfortunately, is the bad news. So on October 28th, I found out that the state will be reducing our municipal services payment by $97,000. And what that payment is this is money that we get from the state in exchange for providing police and fire services to state-owned facilities, which of course for our community is mainly the university. In the past, they had always reduced the police portion by 20% due to the university having their own police force or their own security force. And they did sort of reevaluated everything this year, and based on their criteria, decided to adjust that reduction from 20% to 50%. So that change in the formula is what results in that $97,000 reduction for 2022. We have been working with them to try to persuade them that we actually do provide a lot of services to the university. We do actually provide a lot of services to the campus police. We actually have an MOU with them, and the state has agreed to dig into that and hear us out on that, but they've said that they are pretty much set for 2022. So this is something that they would be looking at for the 2023 budget. So it's something that we're going to continue to try to work through to see if we can get some of that funding restored. But in the meantime, we did have to make adjustments to get a balanced budget for 2022. So a couple of different solutions, and I've outlined these in the memo, but basically we would be getting rid of budgeting for income continuation. That's an employee benefit that is on premium holiday for 2022. I do want to note that the city is absolutely committed to continuing that benefit for our employees, and if that program comes off of premium holiday, we would of course find that $20,000 in the budget in order to continue that benefit. Also, every year there's a transfer that's made from the general fund to our sick leave trust fund, which is used to fund basically we have a benefit program where when employees retire, they get paid out on their sick leave in the form of a deposit to a post-employment health plan to allow them to basically have sort of like a savings account to pay health insurance premiums when they retire. So typically, just with wage increases, we do try to make a little adjustment for inflation every year, but due to the budget challenges, looking to basically skip that inflationary adjustment and then hopefully make up for that in a later year. And then finally, we'd be looking at reducing contingency, and we would be looking at reducing that to $36,837, which is what it would take to get the budget into balance. I do want to note that for contingency, it's not, the last bit of money that the city has, that we also do have fund balance, we do have other reserves. Typically, we do perform okay, from a budgetary standpoint. So I know a lot of people tend to get nervous when we talk about contingency. But basically, the effect of that would be, okay, if something were to happen, rather than that being offset by contingency, that might have to be offset by other spending in the budget. So with that, I guess I'll take any questions or comments or hear any concerns.
Corey, are you looking for, Comptroller Treasurer, are you looking for sort of an agreement with your strategy at this point?
Yes. So basically what I outlined is, I call it the amended budget proposal. So, and typically at this Finance Committee meeting, this would be the Finance Committee basically recommending the budget onto the City Council. Next week, Friday, at the City Council meeting would be the adoption of the budget.
Friday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Monday.
Next Monday. Okay, sorry. I'm
Pushing the week right along.
already starting to think about Friday. But,
You betcha. All right, questions from the committee?
Alder Dalton, I just am appreciative of the support in finding the solutions and quickly and with the pressures that be.
Yep, I agree. Others? Mr. Mayor?
And again, the fact that the state didn't give us any warning on that $97,000 reduction frustrates the heck out of me. I've already been in contact with the Department of Administration because any additional warning, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and we would have been able to more easily adapt the budget. But because we were giving the 2-day notice, like you are not getting your money today, Corey was able to shift things around. It's not an ideal situation, but I do think it's going to work. So appreciative of Corey's solutions, very unappreciative of the state's no-notice policy.
It happens. Members of council, do you have any questions at this time related to this?
This is Alder Morrow. The question I have is in regard to the post-employment health plan. I know when people are, as a state employee myself, I know this is an incredible benefit, and this is oftentimes the determinant if someone's going to be able to retire as they get older. And the concern that I have is, I know being a civil servant, folks say, okay, this year we won't do it, but we'll make it up the next year. And that never seems to happen. And that is a definite concern that I have for the employees that we have. Seeing this has happened with the state on other things. And I just wanted to make that known, if there's a way that we can make sure that does not happen to the employees that we have, because I know, as I said, folks are getting ready to retire. Health insurance is one of their biggest concerns, one of their biggest factors, is if they are going to be able to retire when they want to retire, as opposed to when they might have to retire before they're able to enjoy themselves post working for us.
Sure. No, I definitely, appreciate the concern. And so, the current status is we're really trying to get to a position with this benefit where it's fully funded in advance, which is the way that it should be with an employee benefit program. So for instance, you have a pension plan. You want to get to that point where, you've got enough money set aside in that plan based on what everybody has earned and the benefits that people have earned. Right now, we do have a trust fund set aside for these payments, but it isn't 100% fully funded. We've got about 1.4 million set aside. We've calculated the total liability to be about 1.9 million. So it is still a little bit short of where we would like it to be, but I'd also say that it's not, currently in danger of not, being able to make those payments. But if you're looking for other options, I could give you a few other options. One is if you wanted to reduce contingency from 36,000 down to 26,000, then you'd be able to have that $10,000 inflationary adjustment for the sick leave trust fund. The other option that I would throw out there for you is, depending on how we end the year this year, and if we have money left over, we could also try to transfer some money, from fund balance into that sick leave trust fund to sort of make up for the loss in the operating budget. So those would be two options, if.
The second option is something that I would like you to please, if you can please consider that. I know when you're looking at trying to cut something, anything, no one wants to be cut, and they always want someone to cut the other guy as opposed to me. So seeing what fund balance at the end of the year, and praying that we don't have too much snow, would be nice.
Yeah, and I think that that's a reasonable approach, so.
Anyone else?
You've got.
Madam, Alder Kneebone, please.
First, thank you for, Corey, to you and your staff for putting this together. I know budgeting is never easy. And I just want to say what I say every year: being on a fixed income, as tax levies go up and property taxes are affected, we start to worry about taxing people out of their homes. My backdoor neighbor is seriously considering moving to Hull or to Park Ridge because the taxes on their house are outrageous. But it comes down to, how do you make those decisions? Where do you cut? We want to keep our employees. We want to keep the training. We need to replace vehicles. We need to build buildings. We need these things. And it's not an easy process to go through. So thank you for all the work, and to the Finance Committee members as well. But so just my generic, let's make sure that we don't get to a point where we're going to start losing people because we can't afford the property taxes anymore. And I know part of that's on the state.
Exactly. Thank you, Alder Kneebone. Anyone else? All right, Corey, it sounds like you have a little bit of direction. I'll just add in a few things. I agree with Alder Murrow. Given that we are not fully funded in the liability on our PEP, I'm hoping we can find a little bit of a balance somewhere else. I'm not opposed to getting rid of the inflationary increase, but it would be the least favored of the options, because that liability needs to be met when we start seeing people enjoy their retirement. So, all right. Anyone else on this subject? Okay. Corey, do you feel comfortable with the direction that we've provided?
So typically, in the past, the Finance Committee has made a motion to recommend the budget to the Common Council. You wouldn't have to, it could go forward without a finance committee recommendation, but I think it would be nice to have.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed would be no. Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Good discussion and very thoughtful work on the part of our finance department. Item 4, discussion and possible action on awarding a bid to AVIA Design for the wayfinding signage design program. I would entertain a motion to bring it to the floor for action.
I'll move approval of the bid from AVIA, the
Yes, yep,
design
it's a bid.
program.
I second. Alder Morrow.
All right, I just want to state, I'll get things. I just want to state that I want to make it clear I have no financial interest in AVIA. I have hired them for the Marathon County Solid Waste Department to do exactly the same thing that they are doing for the city of Stevens Point. And believe it or not, they are doing wayfinding work at a landfill. So I wanted to make that clear. I do have them under contract, but I have no direct financial gain through anything with AVIA. And Director Karnowski, I believe you have the floor.
Just here to answer any questions that the committee might have as it relates to the specific project.
Any questions for the director? All right, any questions from the audience? Very well. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the contract with AVIA Design for the wayfinding signage design program. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed would be no. Abstentions? Excellent. Motion carries. Excuse me. Medicine I have to take now after my surgery. It gives me, sorry for the hiccup. So discussion and possible action on providing the authorization to apply for ARPA Neighborhood Investment Fund Grant Program. I'm assuming we are once again looking to Director Kanowski.
Thank you, President Johnson. So in late August, Governor Evers announced this part of the Badger Bounce Back program from COVID-19, this neighborhood investment grant funding. But the announcement came with almost no additional information. So city staff, Comptroller Laddick, Mayor Wiesa, most of the directors got together and said, where could we find projects for this type of funding? And came up with some other alternatives. And then we patiently waited for about 4 weeks. So at the end of September, more information was released on the overall grant program, where we started to find out that really what we were identifying as funding opportunities really wasn't in line with what the grant program itself was meant for. Waited a few more weeks because there was still a lot of unknowns as part of that. And ultimately at the, I would say end of September to middle of October, started realizing that this is intended for much larger projects, with really the intention that the state would be making significant investments with these long-term benefits to help neighborhoods recover from COVID-19. Various facets included transportation, outdoor recreation space, and affordable housing were kind of the three major components of it. And so we took another step back and said, what makes the most sense here? And recognizing that the city's been trying to find a redevelopment opportunity for the downtown Shopko site. Transit's had this concept of updating and building a new transit facility in the downtown, enhancing the park space in the downtown area for some new placemaking activities, providing additional extended stay hotels in the downtown area, And then finding more housing units in the downtown, specifically for low to moderate income individuals and for workforce housing, and then having some market rate housing mixed in that as well, seemed to actually fit a lot of the alignment of the goals of the ARPA Neighborhood Investment Grant funding, which kind of led us to doing this really large master plan for the Shopko site, which, I think you'll see it at a lot of the other communities in the state where community development departments and a lot of other departments were struggling to put together projects because this was such a quick turnaround in terms of a grant program. So from that, most of the directors, the comptroller and the mayor were heavily involved, where we put together a proposed development plan to submit as part of the ARPA funding. Thankfully, the state was wise and gave us an additional week to apply for the funding. Otherwise, we would have been applying for it on November 4th last week. And realistically, they finally had submitted or answered a number of questions that all the municipalities had in the state at the early part of last week. So we are thankful that they gave us an additional week to provide this information to our decision-making bodies, such as the Finance Committee. So real quick, the proposed development plan reestablishes the grid system that was once in place prior to the Centerpoint Mall being constructed, with the extension of Union Street from Centerpoint Drive down to Main Street. We also established the College Court extension at the corner of Strongs Avenue to Church Street. Those are the two major components of kind of the urban planning side of things. This grant would what we're requesting would cover the extension of both the roadway and the utilities, including curb, gutter, sidewalk, more of an urban profile for a road, as we have in the downtown area. That would create 4 development pads, essentially, 2 for low or moderate income or workforce housing, done via private development, 1 for a downtown hotel site, which would be along Centerpoint Drive, and 1 for a mixed-use building along Main Street, which is where the current Shopko parking lot is currently. This would only require 1 acquisition, which of course is the Shopko property that's currently listed for sale for $2.5 million. The city, obviously as part of this would have an interest in acquisition, demolition, and redevelopment of that site, which has become blighted, especially over the last several years that it's been vacant. In order to address some of the possible concerns of the Downtown Point Alliance, among other things, we are also proposing a public parking garage, which is about 150 stalls per floor. We've got it listed at 2 stories, so you'd have 300 total stalls, which would help alleviate some of the parking concerns that the downtown businesses might have as a result of the Shopko parking lot becoming redeveloped. As I mentioned earlier, we also included a new downtown public transit center. Obviously, a number of our riders are of low to moderate income classification, and so having an enhanced downtown public transit center only increases ridership and the likelihood that those living near the area will utilize it to go to work, will go to retailers throughout the city, among others. So, and as I mentioned as well, we'd also have an enhanced green space where the current transit stage is currently. We would enhance that, do more with it, make it more of an inviting place for people to spend time and have additional green space in the downtown area. So really high level urban planning here, but given the fact that we only had a few weeks to put this together, I think staff is really pleased with how this plan has turned out. I think we're going to score very well as it relates to the grant itself. We have a majority of the redevelopment going towards addressing the low to moderate income and workforce housing component, and then of course the transit and green space as well. So with that, I'm more than happy to answer any other questions that the group might have. The total request is just over $14 million, which is a very large chunk of money. The maximum request for this grant is $15 million. The minimum request for this grant is $1 million. And we essentially have to have it, quote unquote, shovel ready for implementation in 2022, with the final project being completed in 2024. So I will also add that we have been working very closely with 2 different developers, one individual who's interested in doing both the hotel and the mixed-use building, and another group that is very interested in the workforce housing component of this plan. So we have opportunities to move forward relatively quick.
Thank you, Director Karnowski, for a very thorough explanation. And thanks to everybody who put a lot of work into that in a very short amount of time. So questions for the director from the committee? Corey, you'll have to help me here.
You've got Alder Dalton and then Alder Slawinski.
Okay, thank you. Alder Dalton, please.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate the creativity and use of the space and what's put before us here. And I think the only question I have is, I think with the enhanced green space extension as part of the new public transit, I think given our cold climate and just the use of quality green space, I think is often better oriented if it has more southern exposure. So if it is possible that the transit could rotate 90 degrees and still fit in that rectangle, and I also feel like a pedestrian corridor down Main Street might enhance that if it was basically the green space was across Main Street. If that works, something to consider. But otherwise, I'm supportive of the proposal. Thanks.
Madam Chairman, if I might interject before you go to Alder Slawinski.
Yes.
All
Yes,
we're
please,
looking
I'm sorry.
at, all we're looking for tonight is the authorization
Right.
to apply for the grant.
Yeah.
The
Right,
details
right.
of the actual project are subject to all sorts of changes before that happens, but we want to approve the application for the grant with this general
Yes.
concept.
Absolutely, but I want to make sure that if people are asked questions, they have a good basis of understanding. So, Alder Slawinski, please.
I think I'm supportive as well, and I thank the director and the department for putting this together so quickly. I think it looks very nice, good plan. My only question is this like all or nothing if we request this? I mean, is it potential we could get, half
Sure.
of what we're requesting, or?
There's one thing I've learned from the DOA through this process is that nobody knows, unfortunately. They may take the parking garage component. I mean, that's about half of our total request, and it's about $7.5 million to build that facility. They may say, we see how you justified it in your application, but we don't believe it's consistent with what we want to provide the money for. But again, I would suspect that we're going to find out more as the grants are submitted this week, actually, and then they are hoping to award grants in the coming weeks by the early parts of December.
All right, thanks.
All right. Other questions from the committee? And then I'll get to the rest of the council.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We don't.
We do.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry for seeming tired. I am. For those of you who don't know, I had unplanned surgery about 10 days ago, and I'm having a very, very slow recovery. So I appreciate your patience. Yeah, there isn't a motion. I guess we should entertain a motion, and thank you for the reminder. And then we will get to Alder Kneebone, who has a question.
I'll move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second, and now I will go to Alder Kneebone. Thank you.
I just have one quick comment. Urban planning is a noble profession.
I completely agree with you, since my degree is in planning as well. So,
Careful about laughing.
other members of the council, anyone have questions at this time? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve going forward with the grant application, knowing that it is conceptual, and we wish Ryan and the team a very good luck. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed would be no. Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is, excuse me, discussion and possible action on the approval of claims paid. I would entertain a motion.
All tomorrow, so moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions related to the claims that have already been paid? Council members? I hear silence, so therefore, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed would be no. Abstentions? Motion carries. Finally, our last item on the agenda, are we going to be coming out of closed session for any
not.
action?
No.
We are not. Excellent, thank you. So item 7, adjourn into closed session at approximately 7 o'clock. We've got to really quit predicting times. Pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And the topic is negotiating the potential purchase of a property within the downtown area. And I would call for a roll call vote on this. Or actually, I'd call for a motion, sorry.
I move that we go into closed session.
I
those
second
purposes.
Alder Morrow.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now I'll call for the roll call vote.
Okay, Slowinski,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Morrow,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Dalton,
No.
4-1.
4-1. We are in closed session and.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.